Brakati Yahawah, Brakati Yahushai, Brakati Yahawah, Brakati Yahushai, Brakati Yahawah, Brakati Yahawah, Bashim Yahushai, Bahashim Rachakodash. The blessings of the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. Salutations to the hopeful elect out there. You Akim to Zadakim that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. I'm the priest Shaman. This week's topic is going to be entitled Eyes on June 14th. Eyes on June 14th. June 14th, what's happening? President Trump, he's hosting the 250th year anniversary of the U.S. military, the U.S. Army. That started in June 14th, 1775. Apostle Tahar makes a good point. 250 years, a pivotal year, because that's typically when the empires come to an end. Now, leading up to this event, and the reason I say keep an eye out for June 14th is because it's a Saturday, and if you've been following all this, events that's been happening, right? Guess what? Saturday was when we had the assassination attempt, right? Saturday was when we had the assassination attempt. Saturday was when we had the second assassination attempt. A lot of stuff is happening on a Saturday. You know what I'm saying? So, this one also happening on a Saturday is, who knows? A lot of things can happen. I'm not insinuating that anything should happen, but it's just something we should keep an eye out for. There was an ad going out on Craigslist in Los Angeles, and I think New York as well. They have ads, but the one on Craigslist particular saying we're looking for the hardest people. We're gonna pay you to do whatever. Pretty much, they was putting out an ads in Craigslist to be a paid agent, a paid provocateur. At this point, everybody know a lot of those people over there are agents, whether they're funded by George Soros, some sort of shadow hand. Even as dude Trump just outright said, those people are paid. Those people are sent there to disrupt, to create chaos. All right. But yeah, there was an ad out saying, in New York too, that protest works. We should protest. They pretty much want people to go there. All right, and that would be a big thing if they march, because guess what? Right now, because you have the left and the right, the so-called Republicans, they're seeing these protesters as anti-Americans, right? They're insurrectionists, if you will. And the people on the left are like, oh no, we're fighting for the people's rights and all that type of shit, so we should march or we should protest. Trump is taking away rights. So they're fueling the people against each other. This whole conflict, this whole division, which is ultimately the hands of the Most High. 2 Ezra 15 and 14 says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. So we're seeing political and civil unrest. Okay. They had people that were just looting, taking shit, very similar to the play that we saw in 2020 I speak about in the previous lesson. They did the same shit here in 2020 when they had those riots in the Bronx. You saw people ripping down jewelry stores and shit. Those people was from Chicago, man. They weren't from the Bronx, man, and different other places, different places I saw, Virginia and all that type of shit. And I know there's the same thing too happening in California. These people that are looting, they're not from California. They're coming from all out these different places answering these ads. Now, Trump this time around said, look, I'm not waiting for the governor. That's the whole thing, that's the whole thing, because the first term, he was waiting on those leftist governors, all right, those Democrat governors, to take the next step to lock these people up, but they didn't. They just let the riots and the loot, they call it peaceful protesting, but that shit ain't peaceful, man. If you're doing a peaceful protest, you won't need a fucking mask. These people are walking around with masks on and shit. Hey, that ain't gonna be no peaceful protest, man. But he said this time I ain't waiting, and I'm bringing in the troops now. And this really too is like a test run. It's like a test run, see how quickly we could deploy these troops for when real shit kicked. This is Jeremiah 30 and 7. I'm gonna read this. It says, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even a time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. So there's gonna come a time, which we're approaching very soon, when all hell is just gonna be damn near indescribable. There's never been martial law declared in the United States. I know we speak on it a lot, but technically speaking, there's never been federal martial law. There's never been federal troops used to, go after United States citizens. You know what I'm saying? Anytime you hear about what's this other one? FEMA troops and shit like that. Those are cities. That's like think about it like this: like the jurisdiction of FEMA responsible for New York can't go in the jurisdiction of FEMA responsible for New Jersey, for example. It's like state police, if you will. But federal martial law, the U.S. Army itself being rolled out, is something we haven't seen before. Imagine Saturday 14th, some sort of event, and again, I'm not insinuating anybody do anything. I'm not saying I'm with that or anything like that. But if something like that were to kick, whether it be authentic, organic, or synthetic false flag on June 14th, okay, that could be another reason, all right, to even expand more totalitarian laws. That's what they did with the with the Patriot Act, with 9/11. You see? People give up their security for their liberty and end up losing both. And now these people are rattled up. So much so that you have people that truly want this dude out of there. If you notice, the left is far more violent than the right, because one thing I peep was the Jan 16 protests from the so-called right. Nobody was wearing masks, and the Republicans are not really the ones that be breaking laws. They're more about keeping the laws and following the government. That's their whole shit. They're conservatives, right? But the left, Antifa, they're all about just ripping shit down and and burning cities and shit and calling it peaceful protests. Is crazy. The left is wild. You know what I'm saying? I'm not taking up no left. I'm just saying, like, if you just look at it objectively, the left side, the Democrat side, them motherfuckers is wild. You know what I mean? So, if they were to do anything on June 14th, I'm pretty sure the Republican Party and the conservative side are going to see that shit as an attack on the United States itself, because it's like that will go beyond Trump, because this thing that he's doing June 14th is something that's always been celebrated. It's always been celebrated, the formation of the U.S. Army. But, the fact that it falls on, Trump is putting it on his birthday, the whole patriotism behind it. Because if you watch any of his rallies, there's a lot of people now joining the military because that whole patriotism spirit is there, And the man spoke extremely proud, saying things like nothing will bring down the United States Army. Like, he's just trying to big up the U.S., and that American, we're the fucking best, and all that type of, that spirit is coming in there. You see what I'm saying? It says, but this man is going to get ready to roll, and all he needs is one reason to do it. This is the book of Isaiah 59:19. It says, so shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the east, from the rising of the sun, when the enemy shall come in like a flood. And this is linking up with Jacob's trouble. This is linking up with if they create some false flag and let them troops go wild, they're going to come in like a flood. It says the spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against them, right? So the Most High is going to lift up a standard, and that's not for these dumbass people protesting and looting and shit. The Most High ain't going to lift up no standards for them. Hell no, fuck them. They're part of the problem. That's talking about when this devil come rolling on the men of the Lord and the servants of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua for refusing to take that RFID microchip, which is the mark of the beast. You see? That's when the Most High is going to have some divine intervention for certain brothers, For certain brothers, their lot might just be to hit with a guillotine or put to death. Well, that's going to be your lot. If that's your lot, just die with the truth. For certain brothers, the Most High might give spiritual power, or another brother spiritual power to get out that jam. This thing is going to definitely intensify, man. As you can say whatever you want about DJT, but he brings that volatility. Brings that shake-up shit, you know what I mean? Revelations 2:10, it says, fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, right? So some of us, will be locked up. Hey, you have men of the Lord that were locked up. Jeremiah, Daniel, John the Revelator, John the Baptist. See? apostles, Yahushua himself. How could I forget? You see? So the servant's not greater than his master. But the scripture is telling us fear none of those things, man. It just means that we're that much closer to the end. It says, some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give you a crown of life. So we're supposed to be faithful on this thing, all right? Till death, man, all right? Endure until the very end, you see? So, hell yeah, man. You know, be circumspect. You know, don't respond to those ads if that's not already apparent. Because they're trying to send that shit. Yeah, they know, look, man, they know your history. They know the things you speak about. You see these algorithms, how they work. You talk about something, then you're going to see a commercial for it on your YouTube or your WhatsApp. So they're seeing people who are texting, I don't like Trump, and I don't do this, and I don't like it, and it's illegal stuff. So they're going to be trying to funnel that shit to you. And really, that shit's a snare. And a lot of people who aren't prudent are going to fall into that snare. You see? Alright, so with that, I'm going to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushua, Ba'ashim Rachah Kodash, that belongs to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. Salutations to the hopeful elect out there. Akim to Zadakim. Do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. By the way, I forgot to mention that march will be out there in Washington, D.C. That's what they're doing on Constitution Avenue. So, hey, let's see what happens. Could just be another day. Could be a major event. That, shalom.